Hi, everybody. This is Matt and Janine.
Today we are here with you for our August entertainment wrap up. And at the end, we're going to mention a couple of upcoming videos that we have. So, to start off with, I wanted to talk about my new releases TBR for books to provide some reading updates. The first book I wanted to talk about is A Rivalry of Hearts by Tizonia Odette. So this is the start of a new series by the same person who wrote Entangled with Fae, a series of Disney princess retellings that I have been loving. I started reading this series in January, and this is her new series that is set in Regency England, so at the same time as Bridgerton. So I enjoyed this book a lot, and I enjoyed the relationship build up between the two main characters. The next book in this series comes out in December, so I'm looking forward to hopefully getting that book for Christmas. The next book I wanted to talk about is By Any Other Name. I talked about this book a little bit in my birthday book haul video that I did on Tuesday. So if you wanted to check that video out, please do. It will be linked in the description below. The next book I wanted to talk about is a backdated new release from April, which is called The Familiar by Lee Bardugo, the same author as the Six of Crows duology. So this is a historical fiction that is set in Spain in the 1500s, and I really enjoyed the relationship build up and the character development for the main character. And I gave this book 4.5 stars on Goodreads and a B plus. The next book I wanted to talk about was The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. This book was recommended by the Good Morning America Book Club. It was the book discussion group for my board's uh, books and brews discussion group through Print Bookstore. I liked this book, but it wasn't one of the top favorites that I've read. And in the Goodreads reviews that I saw, what one thing that I noticed was that the other people were complaining that this rips off a Spanish television mystery show. So that was kind of disappointing to discover.
What was the Spanish show?
I don't remember the name of it. I don't have it written down. And the final new release I wanted to mention is Annabelle Monaghan's new release, which I picked up at the bookstore on Thursday because I got a discount coupon for my birthday in the mail that the bookstore sent, and I decided to take advantage of it right away. So Summer Romance was Annabelle Monaghan's new release from the beginning of June, and I have both of her other books have gotten mixed reviews. I loved Nora Goes Off Script. It was a romantic comedy book that I read back in February and then I reread again in July. That's about a romantic comedy television show writer that ends up falling in love with the male love interest on her TV show that's being filmed. That's basically so this person in Nora Goes Off Script, she writes a TV show that's based on her divorce, and that book was really funny, and I really liked the male main characters uh, relationship build up with the male main character Leo, who is the person who plays her husband on screen. In Summer Romance, I'm really liking the relationship build up between Allie and I think uh the male main character's name is Eli. Um so I'm only on page 143, so I'm only on chapter 19 right now of Summer Romance, and I'm really enjoying it. So, what do you think of Daisy Jones and the Six, by the way?
I'm getting more into the book of that series since I'm learning more about what goes behind the scenes for music bands like Daisy Jones. And Janine's been telling me about one of the serious issues that are covered in the television series, which I really haven't gotten around to yet because I'm on page 196.
So, the two serious issues that Daisy Jones and the Six covers is infertility and substance use disorder, because the lead male singer in the band Daisy Jones and the Six, which is a fictitious band based off of Fleetwood Mac, is an alcoholic, and it talks about his addiction issues. So we are going to talk about the book and TV show um, of Daisy Jones and the Six in our next video called Entertainment Comparisons, where we're going to be comparing Daisy Jones and the Six TV show, Wheel of Fortune hosting between Pat Sajak and Ryan Seacrest, and two theater performances of Legally Blonde that we saw in August and September, and also the Friends finale and Cougar Town finales.
And now we'd like to get around to serious issues in the media.
Okay, so, let me just, here we go. Okay, so the first series issue we wanted to talk about today is, oh, I re-stapled these papers out of order. I'm sorry. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, so the first series issue that we wanted to talk about today is Suicide, which was in the Dead Poet Society. We watched the Dead Poet Society at the end of last week. It is a 1989 movie that stars Robin Williams as English teacher Jack Keating. Robin Williams' character plays a teacher at a prestigious all-male boarding school in northern Vermont. And
And it's a fictitious town called Weston, I think.
the name of the school is called Weston. So in this story, um, Jack Keating has a bunch of unorthodox teaching methods for his English class, and he tells his students about this thing that he was in. So Jack Keating was a student at the school a long time ago, and now he teaches there. So he encourages his English students to reform this group called the Dead Poet Society, which is a group of kids that meets at midnight, kind of like the Midnight Society and Are You Afraid of the Dark, if you guys remember that show on Nickelodeon. And they talk about their favorite poets and read poetry. Um, and Mr. Keating also encourages one of his students, Neil, to try out for the school show of As You Like It, and he gets the lead part, but his father, who's played by Kurtwood Smith from that 70s show and that 90s show, um, plays his very strict father who wants him to focus on his career. He wants his son to graduate from Harvard and go to medical school, but Neil wants to live his own life and not follow the rules so strictly that his parents lay out for him because he wants to be his own person. So I don't know how many of you have actually seen this movie, so we hate to spoil it, but the turning point of the movie for everybody is that Neil commits suicide because of all the stress his parents put him under to be perfect and follow their rules, and it's very sad. But this also causes his dad to be mad at Mr. Keating because basically he was the one who encouraged Neil to audition for the play and not follow his rules.
And
So
so at the very end, Mr. Keating is fired from the school. And causes of suicide could either be by strict parenting or mental disorders. So I talked about before how I dealt with it. So if any of you are under that stress, get help as soon as possible before you commit suicide.
the next TV show that we wanted to talk about today is Growing Pains. I am still very much in the realm of watching TV shows and movies with Matthew Perry in them to honor him. It will be the 1 year anniversary of his death at the end of October. So he was on Growing Pains in the mid 80s when he was in his 20s, right before he was on Friends.
Well, the episode aired in 1989.
That's what I mean. So this episode came out around the same time as the Dead Poet Society. So um in this episode of Growing Pains, Matthew Perry plays the college boyfriend of Sandy, who is the middle child in the family on the show. And he gets in a drunk driving accident because he gets really drunk at a party and drives home under the influence, and then he gets really badly injured. And Tracy is hopeful that he will survive, but then he ends up dying. And I was actually quite sad for Tracy that she lost her boyfriend. For Carol that she lost her boyfriend. I'm sorry, the actress who played Carol Seaver. Her name is Tracy Gold. So I got the names mixed up. But yeah, I really felt bad for Carol when Sandy died, and I almost cried during that scene. So in the Seaver family, the oldest son is played by Kirk Cameron, who is the older brother of Candace Cameron from Full House, and Candace Cameron, a
For the season premiere on season 4, actually guest
she
starred.
guest starred as a college classmate of the youngest Seaver child, Ben, who asks her to a school Halloween party. So I thought it was really cool to see Candace Cameron in her older brother's show, and in a later episode of Full House. And I don't remember which episode it was, but Kirk Cameron later guest starred on Full House. So I would have to look up that episode and see if we can find it somewhere. The next episode that we wanted to talk about is Magnum PI. So this is a show we started watching back at the beginning of July, and it stars Tom Selleck as a detective,
Private
a
Eye.
private eye who works for the police force in Hawaii. So
And on this episode that we would want to explain, it was the 4th season of season 4, and it was where a girl named Wendy, who was the older sister of younger
sister.
sister of one of Magnum's friends, best friends,
Right.
she ends up going to a bar with Magnum, although it was really not his idea. So, because we were thinking about how she thinks she still has a curfew.
Okay, so basically in this episode, Magnum's friend Rick asks Magnum to be a chaperone for his younger sister Wendy, who he still views as a kid and doesn't realize that he's an adult. So basically, he infantilizes her and treats her like a kid when she's in her 20s. But the dark side of this episode is that when Magnum takes Wendy to the bar, she disappears, and Rick and Magnum and the other detective, TC, they later discover that Wendy was actually a drug mule, and that there was a drug bust at the bar that Magnum was chaperoning her at, and she got killed because her boyfriend was a drug dealer. And the drug deal basically went horribly wrong. So this episode focuses on the personal issue of changing family dynamics, which essentially means Rick still views his little sister as a 10-year-old and doesn't realize that she was sent to religious school because she was sort of a rebel, but she got kicked out of religious school in her senior year because she got mixed in with the wrong crowd. And he didn't know about that. So he basically didn't know that his sister had a darker undertone to her good girl demeanor. And naturally, he was upset because he found out that his sister died in a drug deal. He originally blames Magnum for like being irresponsible and losing her when he was supposed to be taking care of her, but this is when he doesn't realize that Wendy was mixed up with a bad group of people. The next series, actually, let's talk about Mama's Family, because Mama's Family also talks about changing family dynamics.
And we watched this first premiere episode from season 1 last night, where Mama Harper, Thelma, played by Vicki Lawrence, was living with her sister, who was played by Rue McCallaghan. Her name was Fran. So what they didn't realize was that Thelma's son named Vint, who had his son and daughter, was kicked out on the street because of eviction. So, what's a family to do when they're homeless? It seemed like that they would move in with Thelma to start off a nice family outing. But when Fran comes back, then she realizes everything changes and she's so unhappy that she's going to move out. So you could see another example of changing family dynamics.
Exactly. So I got Matt Mama's Family for his birthday last year because this first season, along with the fourth season of Magnum PI that we're watching, came out the year he was born, 1983. And these shows came out before I was born in 1985. So it's fun to watch them because I never really got into them when they were on TV. And what is cool about Mama's Family is that Betty White and Rue McClanahan are both on this show, and this was the show that they were on before they were on the Golden Girls. So I think maybe we should compare. We should also compare the characters of Fran and Blanche to see if they're different when we do our September
And the
comparisons
same with Betty White's character,
of Rose
Alan
and
and
Rose.
Rose.
So we will need to watch more episodes of Mama's Family before we can make these comparisons.
And I want to tell you that Vicki Lawrence, who played Thelma Harper, she was perfect for that role, especially when they were doing the family skits on the Carol Burnett show, because the intro really was looked like Thelma's husband, played by Harvey Korman, and he helped to co-create that spin-off series of Carol Burnett show, Mama's Family.
The final movie we wanted to talk about in our serious issues in the media mini series is To Kill a Mockingbird. So I have been on a kick where I have been rereading books I read in high school and college to see if middle school, high school, and college. So eighth grade, sixth grade to sophomore year of college, or sixth grade to senior year in college. So one of the books that I read for this TBR was To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and I remember when I read this book in high school, one thing that really stood out to me was Scout's relationship with her brother and Scout's relationship with the neighbor, Boo Radley, who I theorize has a disability or mental illness that people really shelter him away from the rest of the community for. And he ends up being a really nice character that really cares about Boo and her brother and his friend Dill. Um, so the serious issue that this book and film talk about is racism because the the father, Atticus Finch, is a judge and the um he is representing a black man in court who is accused of assaulting a white girl, a white 16-year-old girl. Um, and the courtroom scene was very emotional because you get to hear both the story of the black man and the story of the girl who was assaulted. And while you feel bad for the girl who was assaulted, you kind of also feel bad for the guy who's being accused because he keeps saying how he was innocent of assaulting her because he was just trying to be a good gentleman and help her out because she was asking him for help. So what did you think of how racism was handled in this movie?
In a way, I thought racism, it wasn't as serious an issue then as it is now. But I think the actors who did it and in the book did it with prosperity.
Have you read the book?
I don't remember if I read the book.
Well, you should read it. Um so we gave the movie a B rating and 7 stars on IMDb. Do you think the theme of racism in this movie holds up well today in the light of what happened with Black Lives Matter?
It, I think so.
How do you think it holds up well? Because I'm not quite sure that it does.
Well, the way reading the book and the movie To Kill a Mockingbird handled it, with the Black Lives Matter that we have today, when we hear about all that happened with different races, such as George Floyd, it really is almost a forgetting thing to the media.
So, racism is kind of covered in modern TV shows under the topic of police brutality. This is featured in the movie and the book The Hate You Give. This is featured in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's featured in episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And
What about the Cosby Show?
The Cosby Show was never mentioned in Miss Mojo's videos, but yes, I think that the Cosby Show also handled police brutality very well.
Because the wife in that show was, after all, a lawyer.
Right. Right.
Let's go on. Let's go.
So the other movie that we reviewed for this month's review video, which did not cover a series issue, was James and the Giant Peach. This video is featured in one of Phantom Strider's movie review videos. I'm pretty sure it was the top 3 best claymation animated movies. I have to go back and find a link to the video, and that video will also be linked in the description. So James and the Giant Peach came out in 2010 and is based on
No, it's 1996.
Oh, 1996, sorry. So James and the Giant Peach came out in 1996 and it is based on
The book by Roald Dahl.
Right. And I remember reading the book of of James and the Giant Peach when I was younger, but this was the first time I ever saw the movie, and I thought that um Henry Selick and Tim Burton did a really good job with bringing Ronald Dahl's characters to life. Um, we were comparing and contrasting this movie to Matilda and Harry Potter a little bit as well because of how abusive the adult figures are. So,
If you have read James and the Giant Peach and watched the movie yourselves, it isn't hard to see that after James had his parents got eaten up by a rhino, then he went to live with his 2 aunts who were very, very abusive and mean. So what happens is a magical person comes in with some glowworms, and that causes when James trips to get a peach to grow all the way. And then when James finds a way to get into the peach, they escape the big hill in England and end up in New York City.
so comparing the abusive relatives in all of these different movies, how would you rank them on how abusive they are? I'm talking about Aunt Spiker and Aunt Sponge, the Dursleys, and Matilda's parents.
Well, Matilda's parents were mean in a way because they just wanted her to be involved with some things that really should not be in for a little girl like Matilda. She had her own world and powers, and they proved out to be very helpful. But I thought Miss Trunchbull was a lot worse, even especially as a principal in her school.
And we find out through flashback scenes that she is also the aunt of Miss Honey and that she was really abusive to Miss Honey. So, in a way, the ending of Matilda is very beautiful because Miss Honey ends up adopting Matilda and they end up living together and growing together and learning how to deal with their trauma.
Now, in James the Giant Peach, I thought the aunts were almost as bad as Miss Trunchbull because of their makeup style and really making James be their slave
Right.
and not giving the proper treatment or anything that a little boy needs. So when the magic spell comes and they transforms the peach and the bugs to life size, then things change for the better for James right away. And you could immediately see that he belonged where in a group where he needed friends and family to really be loved. Because when you live all alone and you're the most lonesome, sad boy people would ever find about you, then you need a change.
Yeah, so and also in Harry Potter, his uncle and aunt are really abusive too because they make him like live underneath the staircase and they don't feed him very well and they're not very nice to him. And also, a thing I was noticing when I was rereading the Harry Potter books is that they're not very nice to their son either. Their son Dudley, because he is overweight and they basically insult him and call him a fat pig, which isn't good for the kid for his self-esteem either. So, I never noticed the fat phobia when I was reading Harry Potter as a kid, but now that I have noticed it while I was rereading it, I really think that should have been left out of the book and not included because it is not a very good thing for kids of today to read about because it teaches them to be bullies.
Mm-hmm. And now we gotta do our final wrap up of Cougar Town.
That's in a separate video. So for the book-based animated movies, how would you rank James and the Giant Peach?
James and the Giant Peach, I thought, was one of the best of all time.
Okay. So we have been watching these book-based animated movies since fall 2022, and the other book-based animated movies we have watched include the Shrek movies, the Polar Express, the Puss in Boots movies, the How to Train Your Dragon movies,
And Iron Giant.
and Iron Giant. So how would you rank all of these movies?
Quite frankly, the original Shrek for me is probably on the top of my list. Obviously, because I have seen it in a musical form, and I have been in an experience playing a role myself along with Janine. It really just makes you feel like family and where you belong.
Right.
So the second best would be James and the Giant Peach because it's a classic book, and Tim Burton, they really did a great job to correspond with Disney and that company to bring a good movie to life. And I remember seeing Siskel and Ebert give that 2 thumbs up. And then after that, I would think Iron Giant, and then the Shrek 2 movie, and the Shrek 3 and beyond was a little bit down my list.
What about Polar Express?
Polar Express is my number 3 or 4 choice.
Okay, so this is how I would rank them. James and the Giant Peach, How to Train Your Dragon series, Shrek, Polar Express, Shrek 2, Puss in Boots, um, Shrek 3, Puss in Boots The Last Wish, and Shrek Forever After. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered them all pretty well.
Okay, so for upcoming videos, we have our final wrap up of Cougar Town video as premieres so this video is being pre-recorded on August 31st to be posted on September 1st at 1 p.m. And our final wrap up for serious issues in the media when it comes to Cougar Town episodes will be premiering at 5:30 p.m. Then after that, our next video about entertainment comparisons, where we will be talking about Wheel of Fortune hosts Ryan Seacrest versus Pat Sajak, Daisy Jones and the Six, Friends and Cougar Town finales, and Legally Blonde productions put on by
Portland Players in
and
Prescott Park.
That will be on September 22nd. What time should we post that at, would you say? Like 5?
I think 5 o'clock.
And then our final wrap up for our series issues in the media series will be posted on November 2nd at 5:30 p.m.
And these deal with serious issues that we've been doing with other things in the media for about a year and a half.
Yes, and we are going to be retiring this series after this November, just because we have run out of things to talk about without being repetitive. And then our final video of 2024 will be our fall entertainment wrap up,
Hmm.
which will conclude our serious issues in the media series, and then we will wrap up all of the other media that we have consumed throughout the fall. And in the background, I still have been dealing with hackers pretending to be various celebrities. And I think it is probably time to maybe end this entertainment blog, because I have tried very hard to keep this going throughout this year, but I don't think it's really working out very well because I'm still having hackers contact me.
Hmm.
So, I don't know how you feel about not doing this anymore. Do you think we should stop, or do you think we should
Well, what we
continue?
should do, Janine, is when we get to the end of this part of the video, we are going to do a new round of entertainment, and much of it will be what I may want to choose to watch myself, because there are other good movies out there. But also, I want to take one more part in this video to wish all of you a happy Labor Day weekend, and all you kids out there, even if you haven't started school yet for the new year, make sure you're fully prepared and think about your friends who are going through the same process as you are, and try to be as kind and as you possibly can, because when you're with a lot of kids, you're almost like family. So I hope all is well, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.